Hello and welcome back to Football Daily, where today we give you an excerpt of Champions League legends you may have forgotten. Here we go. Goalkeeper, Oliver Kahn. With modern football requiring keepers to be great footballers and distributors as well as shot stoppers, it's easy to dismiss past greats as limited in comparison to Ederson and Neuer. But Oliver Kahn, who wore Bayern's number 1 between 1994 and 2008, was once as feared as any striker, a wall in front of the net who twice came in third for the Ballon d'Or. Only 5 keepers have more appearances in the Champions League than Kahn, and in 107 Champions League games, he conceded under a goal per match and kept a clean sheet around a third of the time. In the 1999 competition, he captained Bayern Munich in the final and made 7 saves before the Germans eventually succumbed to Man United's pressure. But 2 years later, he finally got his winner's medal, conceding just 12 goals in 17 games on the way to the final, where once again he put in an immense performance, saving 3 penalties in a shootout as Bayern downed Valencia. He was named man of the match. Also a Euro 96 winner with Germany, Kahn played at the top level until he was nearly 39, and only the great Sepp Maier played more games for FCB than him. A true icon. Defender, Filho. You may not know his name, but Filho is one of just 2 British players to have won 4 Champions Leagues alongside Gareth Bale, and is the only person to accomplish the feat without playing for Milan, Barca or Real Madrid. Nil spent 11 years with Liverpool between 1974 and 1985, and as a result started in 5 finals. That makes his tally in European Cup finals the same as Leo Messi, and he could even claim to have a better record, having netted in a 1984 penalty shootout victory over Roma. That's remarkable for anyone, let alone a fullback, and Nil's consistency throughout his career was genuinely staggering. He racked up more than 50 appearances in all competitions in 10 consecutive campaigns with the Reds, and between 1975 and 1985, he missed just 1 league game out of 420. In 12 seasons, he won 8 English titles and ended up with 23 trophies in his time at Anfield, 8 more than Cristiano Ronaldo won in his time at Real Madrid. Also capped 50 times for England, Nil's name may not have the glamour associated with other legendary defenders, but his career can definitely rank alongside the best ever seen in the game. Defender, Gaetano Scirea. One of the greatest players in the history of Juventus, Gaetano Scirea was the club's answer to Franco Baresi, a classy defender who anchored the team for 14 years. With over 550 appearances, Scirea sits behind only Buffon and Del Piero in games for the old lady, and during his time in Turin, he won 7 Serie A titles with Juve only allowing just 321 goals in 420 league games. Also a World Cup winner, Scirea was never red carded in the course of his career, and in 1985 had the chance to captain the club to continental glory. Juventus had never won the European Cup before, but with Scirea in the defence, they allowed just 6 goals in 8 games going into the final. The Reds had scored 18 in their 8 fixtures, but Rush and Dalglish were no match for Scirea. Juventus kept a clean sheet and took the cup home. After retirement, Scirea continued to serve Juventus as a coach, but sadly in 1989, just a year after he stopped playing, he was in Poland scouting an opposing side when he was killed in a car crash. He was just 36. However, his name remains immortal in Turin, with the south stand of Juventus' stadium named the Curva Scirea in his honour. Defender, Ruud Krol. We had to include a defender from the legendary Ajax side which won 3 European Cups on a trot in the early 70s, and we've picked Ruud Krol, who predominantly played left back for the Amsterdam outfit. Ajax kept a clean sheet in each of these 3 successful finals, and between 1970 and 1973, the club allowed just 12 goals in 25 European Cup games, ending up with 14 shutouts in that time. A natural defender who could also play on the right as a sweeper or in the midfield, Krol epitomised the class and versatility prized by Ajax's academy and allowed the team and the national team to interchange freely. And as a result, Krol won 6 domestic titles and reached 2 World Cup finals while playing a fluid, exciting football never seen before. However, he was also a famously tough tackler, and Franco Baresi would later name the Dutchman his role model, with his fame only behind Neeskens and Cruyff, the legendary Netherlands team of the 70s. Midfielder, Mario Calluna. It wasn't just Eusebio who Portugal and Benfica took from Mozambique. The Lisbon club, which reached 5 European Cup finals in 8 years between 1960 and 1968, winning 2 of them, and playing in every one of those games, was midfield genius Mario Calluna. Calluna, who could play in any role in the centre of the park, scored the winning goal in the 1961 European Cup final, as Benfica became the first team other than Real Madrid to lift the trophy. He was so imposing and omnipresent that he was nicknamed O Monstro Sagrado, the sacred monster. As a youngster in Mozambique, Calluna caught the eye when he played South African opposition with Desportivo. Because of the South Africans' apartheid laws, he couldn't play the first leg but bagged 7 goals in the return fixture and Benfica snapped him up, initially playing him on the wing where he scored 14 in 26 in his first season. His match intelligence eventually saw him moved into a box-to-box role, and with Calluna feeding Eusebio, who he took under his wing, opening the superstar's first bank account for him. The team won 10 titles, including 4 domestic doubles. Winning 57 caps for Portugal and helping them to third at the 1966 World Cup, Calluna later returned to Mozambique, where he served as a Minister of Sport. He died in 2014. Midfielder Clarence Seedorf. Often the most obscure part of history is the recent past. It's not close enough for people to remember, but not far enough away for retrospectives and documentaries, and as a result, some of the superstars of the 90s are a little bit underappreciated. One such star is Clarence Seedorf, the brilliant Dutch midfielder who remains the only player to have won the Champions League with 3 different clubs. You'll be stunned to hear that Seedorf began his career at Ajax, and as a result, his powerhouse physique was combined with an excellent understanding of the game and skill with both feet. A regular even as a 6-year-old under Louis van Gaal, Seedorf won his first continental crown at 19, paired with Edgar Davids in midfield. After an odd year with Sampdoria, Real Madrid came calling, and the Surinamese-born icon hosted the trophy again in 1998, before moving on to Milan, where he picked up another 2 medals, starting his 5th final at the age of 31 and going on to be named UEFA Midfielder of the Year. After 5 domestic titles in 3 countries, Seedorf ended his career with 962 professional appearances and a knighthood in the Netherlands, as well as an inclusion in Milan's Hall of Fame and Real's Team of the Century. Midfielder Steve McManaman. When he moved to Real Madrid in 1999, Steve McManaman was just the 2nd Englishman to wear the white shirt and had made a name with Liverpool as a winger. Los Blancos brought him in on a free, helpful after financial issues forced them to say goodbye to Seedorf, and the Scouser would go on to become one of the club's most popular players. Widely seen as a technical, dribbly continental type in his homeland, Vincent Del Bosque saw something more, trusting McManaman's work rate and shifting him into central midfield. That was a big ask in a team which played a 5-2-3 formation, but with Fernando Redondo by his side, McManaman shone in his debut campaign, helping Madrid knock out the previous year's finalists, Bayern and Man United, on their way to the showpiece matchup with Valencia. Real won that game 3-0, McManaman sealing the victory with a stunning scissor kick from the edge of the box and earning the Man of the Match award. Del Bosque later called Maka the most important player at the club, and he would win 2 titles and another Champions League in the course of 150 appearances at the Bernabeu. Midfielder Kaka. Of course nobody has forgotten Kaka, but the sheer dominance of the attacking midfielder in Europe's best competition is often overlooked. He was the last man outside of Ronaldo and Messi to finish as Champions League top scorer back in 2006, and that year he picked up a well-deserved Ballon d'Or after contributing to 13 goals in 15 European games and assisting the winner in the final as Milan beat Liverpool. He scored 5 times in the knockout stage that year, including 3 over the 2 legs against Manchester United, and at the time of writing he remains level with Neymar as the highest scoring Brazilian in the competition's history. Of course he was also an elite creator, finishing top of the assist chart on 2 occasions, putting him in a club again with only Neymar again, Figo and Messi. But his form in Serie A was just as impressive. In 4 of his 6 seasons with Milan, the Brazilian reached double figures in the league, and he was named Player of the Year twice, once more than Zinedine Zidane. An ill-fated €67 million move to Real Madrid in 2009 was followed by a succession of injury problems, while the arrival of Mesut Ozil a year later saw Kaka sidelined, and gradually his star faded. But for a brief period, he was one of the most feared attackers in the world, and one of the best to ever line up during the Champions League anthem. Forward, Jose Altafini. One of the 3 Milan forwards to make up our front line, Jose Altafini played for the Rossoneri, Napoli and Juventus in the 1960s and 70s. Born in Brazil, he was part of the Seleção team which won the 1958 World Cup, though he only played 8 times for his country before switching allegiance to Italy, who he represented on 5 occasions. However, in those combined 13 caps, he found the net 9 times, a record typical of Altafini's consistent excellence in front of goal. He hit 20 league goals in 4 consecutive seasons after arriving in Milan as a 20-year-old, and in 1962-63, he led a team bidding to become the first outside of Real Madrid and Benfica to host a European Cup. Real had won it 5 times, while Benfica had done it twice, and Milan met the Portuguese side in the final, having scored 31 goals in 8 matches. Altafini grabbed 12 of them. With Cesar Maldini, Paolo's dad, and Giovanni Trapattoni in the XI, the Italians were confident, but 20 minutes in, they were a goal down thanks to the legendary Eusebio. It didn't matter. Altafini grabbed a second-half double to down the Eagles and wrote his name in European football history. His record of 14 in a single Champions League campaign stood for 51 years until 2013-14, when it was broken by the one and only Cristiano Ronaldo. Forward, Marco Simoni. You might have been able to guess that Pippo Inzaghi is the highest scoring Italian in the history of the European Cup, but you'd probably be surprised to learn that Marco Simoni is second. The forward appeared for Milan, PSG and Monaco in the tournament, and with 24 and 46, had a better goal-to-game ratio in the competition than Thierry Henry, Ibrahimovic and Samuel Eto'o. Simone grew up playing for local club Como, but after Leriani were relegated to Serie B in 1989, he was snapped up by Milan at the age of just 20. Though not as prolific as teammates like George Weah and Marco van Basten in domestic play, with his best league tally being 17 in 1985, he still scored roughly a goal every 3 games over 8 years at the San Siro, winning 2 European Cups and 4 titles in a 5-year stretch between 1991 and 1996. And he ended up surpassing those Ballon d'Or winners as a Champions League hitman, thanks to a late resurgence with Monaco, netting 6 in 6 for the Principality side in the 2000-2001 campaign, to finish as the second highest scorer behind Raul on 7, despite Monaco exiting at the group stage. He ended his career with 5 league titles across Italy and France, and was inducted into Milan's Hall of Fame. Forward, Jean-Pierre Papin. Only 10 players have been the Champions League top scorer in more than 1 season. Van Basten, Platini and Johan Cruyff never joined the club, but Jean-Pierre Papin was the most prolific in the competition 3 years running, between 1989 and 1992. A superstar at Marseille, he also lifted the Ballon d'Or and bagged 19 in 21 European matches and 112 in all competitions in that 3-season stretch. Sadly for Papin, when the Olympians actually won the Champions League in 1993, he was on the opposing side, having switched to Milan for then a world record fee of £10 million. By then in his 30s, Papin's health was worsening, but he was still able to finally get his hands on a European medal, finishing joint top scorer for the Rossoneri as they unexpectedly destroyed Johan Cruyff's dream team 4-0 in the final. Amazingly, France missed the 1990 and 1994 World Cups, despite having talent like Cantona and Papin at their disposal. And though he remains the 4th highest scoring Frenchman in the history of the UCL, behind Benzema, Henry and Trezeguet, another injury-hit spell outside his homeland with Bayern Munich prevented the striker from ever receiving the kind of international attention he deserved. So that was our XI Forgotten Champions League legends. If you have any suggestions or think we missed anyone out, let us know in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe.